Sounds good.
Welcome, everyone, to our March FourSight U. I am thrilled to have my longtime collaborator and friend, Mimi Sherlock, join us. Mimi is one of my favorite people to collaborate with. Tons of experience facilitating everything from strategic planning sessions, new product sessions, creativity sessions in general, a real expert in the field. So today's topic is generative AI for the creativity practitioner. And a few months ago, I was speaking with Mimi and she was talking about how she was using AI. And I said, I think this might be a great topic for FourSight U. So we are doing a special 90-minute session today. And with that, I'm going to really turn it over to Mimi and let's enjoy learning from her experience.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Sounds like we got people from everywhere. So that's really great. Yeah, as Russ said, we were talking and I was sharing with him really how excited I've been over the past few months in using generative AI. And we were both kind of talking about the fact that generative AI is out there, but it's not really being picked up by everyone at the same rate, and everyone's kind of at a different place with maybe if they've experimented with it, if they haven't. So this is going to be pretty basic, but I do want to share some of my experiences over the past few months and dive into a couple examples. And I think as you have questions, maybe just put them in the chat. Russ, you're going to help me with the chat, right?
You got it.
Okay. Okay, so, you really can't avoid generative AI. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. And the truth is, it really is a tool that is something we need to learn how to embrace for the future. And the idea is that really the organization of the future, the way creativity happens moving forward, is certainly going to be something that's enabled by Gen AI. But of course, at the end of the day, always driven by people. So I've been asking different people from different industries and around the world, people I've been talking with, like, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like you're ready for it? And I've gotten a lot of different responses. And I realized that there is a bit of hesitation out there. And I don't know how you guys are. You jumped on this call, so that means that you're really interested and excited about it too. But we still see that Gen AI can be kind of that elephant in the room. So I did a little bit of research. I've been doing a lot of reading, and just to try to understand what is it that holds people back from just jumping into some of the tools that are really widely available. So ChatGPT or Bing Copilot are the two that probably are most common to at least me and a lot of people that I work with. So a lot of people talk about that, one of the reasons maybe that they're not jumping into it so much is just lack of familiarity. They just haven't had a chance to kind of keep up with what's going on with generative AI. They kind of have this perception that it might be complex. They might just be apathetic about it. They might feel like they just don't have enough training. Some people cite ethical considerations. They feel like, well, I don't want to use generative AI. It feels like cheating, or I know I've heard there's some biases associated with it, so I don't want to use that. I'm a little bit worried about that. People are worried about the accuracy of generative AI outputs. And also FOMO. FOMO has been replaced with FOBO. What do you think FOBO stands for? You guys can just speak out, really, or put in the chat. FOMO has been replaced with FOBO. You guys heard that? What do you think FOBO is? Any thoughts coming through there? I can't see the chat.
That's because there's nothing in it right now.
Oh, okay. Any guesses? You guys are creative. What might FOBO mean or stand for?
Fear of being
Does
obsolete.
everyone know what? Yes, exactly. Everyone knows what FOMO is, right? Fear of missing out. Common term. Yes, FOBO, fear of being obsolete, because a lot of people have heard about this AI thing and they're thinking, oh my God, my job is going to be taken away or really diminished in some capacity. Computers are going to take over. So fear of being obsolete. So it's a little bit of fear. So do you guys have any hesitations? What's the elephant in the room resistance for any of you guys who are on the call? Is anything kind of holding you back, or what maybe keeps you from really jumping into using some of the tools that are available?
So
Maybe put
maybe
a,
Clay said security is an issue with corporations.
yep, yeah, security is definitely an issue. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll share some experiences that I have in my organization, which is a large corporation of about 30,000 people now. Anyone else? Anything else holding you back?
And can you see the chat or you want me to read it out?
Can you read it? I can't see it
Sure.
for some. Just
That's
want to
okay.
look.
Debbie said not knowing how to use it,
Okay.
using it effectively. Clay said they're piloting it in for some applications in a secure environment.
Yeah.
Complexity, fear of feeling stupid, mostly time,
You're feeling
lack of familiarity and confidence,
okay.
long learning curve.
Okay. Great. So I'm hoping that by the end of this presentation and this session, you guys are going to feel definitely more confident, feel like you can tackle this because you can use it in a very simple way. It doesn't have to be so complex. There are some security concerns, but there's some awareness that can help you overcome those. And we'll talk about all those things. So great to even, think about what might be holding you back, right? Because once you name it, it's easier to deal with it. And I think it's something that we all need to embrace. So I don't know how many of you have heard this common phrase lately that's been going around. And it's this idea that AI might not replace you, but a person who uses AI could, right? So I think uh, just because we have this generative AI now, it doesn't mean that everything's replaceable. But it does mean that people are using it and it is increasing people's creativity. It's increasing people's productivity in efficiencies. And so that's kind of what can get to you versus the fact that it's just, AI. AI by itself is nothing. It's only when AI is used by people who can be pretty creative with it. And that's when you can become a little bit more fearful of being obsolete. There's a lot of great papers out there. I will share afterwards my kind of a short reading list. I've tried to read as many articles as I can, especially from a lot of the Harvard Business Reviews, the McKinsey's, some of those types of articles, the Fast Companies. There's some really interesting perspectives out there. But it's pretty clear, and everyone really does agree that generative AI, no doubt, is transforming knowledge work in every way, and in every industry. So we're going to take a look at what it's doing and how that's working. So we want everyone to get familiar with it and use the tools that are widely available for free, like Copilot and like ChatGPT. So again, there's a lot of speculation out there, a lot of, like I said, really agreement and energy out there that generative AI is really poised to disrupt, especially marketing and sales, which is what I was more interested in, which is why I kind of tend to look at what it's doing there. Anything from all aspects of marketing and insights and insight activation, around deliberate creativity. So there's some really good points of view and also a lot of great ways to learn just from some of these articles and some free modules that are out there that are pretty basic and will get you going in no time. So I'll be sharing a list of kind of what I found super helpful at the end here. One of the things that I think is really important for us as creative practitioners is really just to think about our action plan around generative AI, because we know it's not going away, and it can really help us. It can make us more productive. It can really kind of expand the creative horizons with the way we apply what we do in almost every way. And so I think about just everything I can do to up my literacy around AI. I want to be knowledgeable. I want to understand. I want to learn the language around AI, and especially generative AI. And just like we know in creativity, it's not just the technical part and technical skills, it's the mindset. And cultivating the AI mindsets needed to leverage AI. It really is, we are in a great position to leverage generative AI as a creativity practitioner, because at the end of the day, everything that we know about, especially that front part of the creative process and the power of the creative questions, is really at the heart of being able to leverage Gen AI at its best. The creativity really becomes, what you want to ask, what you want to feed Gen AI, how you build what we call the prompt for Gen AI. And that open and flexibility and iterative back and forth, building on ideas and modifying ideas, and once you ideate, developing and using it in all those ways. We're all trained very well for leveraging everything that we can get out of Gen AI. And then you do need to upskill. And really the main skill, I would say, with generative AI is what we call prompt engineering. Probably something you've all heard about, probably something some of you may have been doing already. But there's ways to upskill. There's tons of resources out there. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks today. And then knowing what the guardrails are. A couple of you talked about, there are risks here, right? There are things that we need to be careful about. We need to pay attention to, and how to kind of navigate some of those concerns is really important. And I think the more we share with each other, right, the greater we're all going to get at this, because there are just a million different ways you can apply this, and it's great to learn from each other. Does anyone have a question while I was going? I know I've been talking a lot. Comment?
What are guardrails?
So just some guardrails to think about, like some ways to make sure that when you're using Gen AI, you're doing it in a safe way. You're doing it in a way that doesn't introduce bias, or you're doing it in a way that you're not putting protected information out there into the world that isn't supposed to go out there. So that's what I mean by the guardrails.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I think it's helpful to kind of have this big picture around AI and how it's evolved, because, AI, it's not new, right? We've been hearing about AI for a long time. And it used to be that, AI was out there, but it was really more in the hands of the data scientists and, certain people maybe within an organization. And we really didn't have to worry about it too much. We were just happy when the algorithm knew what we wanted, when we went to Amazon. Right? Traditional AI is really what has been happening up until really just about a year ago that became widely available. A lot of different tools that use existing data to make predictions and automate processes, right? So traditional AI is focused on detecting different patterns, forecasting, really helping us with analytics, things like detecting fraud. That's kind of where AI was, I would say, most active. But really last year, I think, was it November of last year, OpenAI and ChatGPT became widely accessible to people. And that really introduced us to the first tool that really democratized artificial intelligence. And generative AI is really an evolution of what's come before it. And now we've got these tools that not just analyze the past and rely on predictive algorithms, but they generate new things. They actually create. So rather than only analyzing data that already exists, we can now use generative AI to generate something that never existed before, right? So generative AI produces new content, all kinds of new content, text content, images, video, and that includes, you know, creative outputs, marketing content, workshop agendas, poems, musics, code, games, ideas, product concepts, right? So it's really now, none of us need to know how to code. None of us need to know how to build an algorithm or be a data scientist, as long as we just know how to chat and talk. Generative AI is a tool that we can use with all the power behind it. So it's just this incredibly accessible tool that does not require any coding at all. It just requires common natural language. So if you can talk, you can use generative AI and you can leverage it really in creative ways. So that's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. The thing that's important, I think, is to really understand when to use it, how to use it, what are the strengths of generative AI and what are its weaknesses, and to be fully aware of those things as you're using generative AI. So, you know, some of the strengths, and you guys can help add to this list for those of you that have been using it, but creative content generation, text, image, also there's lots of tools that create videos, all sorts of creative content generation is a major strength. The ability to do data analysis, the ability to do use it for tools with customer interaction. You can translate text with it. You can ask it to write you code. I know my daughter was taking a coding class and she got a little extra help from Gen AI when she got stuck. You can use it to automate tasks. It's very helpful for those sorts of things. The weaknesses are the things to be aware of. So sometimes ChatGPT and Copilot, Bing Copilot, they're really good at generating content, but sometimes they might generate things that aren't really true or don't really exist. And when it does that, we call those hallucinations. So it can make things up sometimes. And I will tell you that I use these tools every day for a variety of things. And this doesn't happen too often to me, but it does happen. And sometimes it's easier to spot when a hallucination is being created, and sometimes it's less easy, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in some of the examples as I go through those. Also, generative AI is a tool that is basically trained with natural language, right? So it's trained with all sorts of texts that exist today. And we know that in a lot of things that are published, there is some inherent bias in some of those things. And because generative AI is trained with things that have some bias, you have to be very aware of looking out for any bias that might come out in some of its responses. You know, these models, these are called large language models, and they're really trained on you know, billions and billions of text elements, and so there's always going to be the possibility that something that ChatGPT or Bing Chat spits out could have some bias to it. And so you always want to be aware of that. Privacy and compliance, when you use these tools in kind of the open forum, so if you just go to Chat Bing Copilot and start using that web version, or you sign up for a ChatGPT account and start using ChatGPT, you have to realize that everything that you input or any questions that you ask it, any data that you feed it, basically is then data that's open for anyone else to see, and it can be used out in the world. And so you have to be really aware of that to make sure that you're not putting some secrets or some proprietary insights into the system that shouldn't be going into those. For those of you that work at organizations, many have policies now that help to protect from these complications around data and privacy. So that helps. But a lot of people, I don't think, realize that everything that they ask the generative AI tools and all the context that they give generative AI, it's always used. It's always learning. It's using that to learn and get smarter and get better. So you have to be aware of that. A weakness that if it's used incorrectly can happen is if you ask one of these tools a question, and a lot of times people say, yeah, I asked ChatGPT this question, but I got this weird response. It didn't make any sense to me. It was completely out of context. And that's because that's really not how these tools work. They're not like a Q&A bot, they're not something that can read your mind. Actually, when you use these tools, you're really in the driver's seat. You actually have to provide a great amount of context that will help you get what you're looking for. You have to help the system learn what you're looking for, and you're going to be more likely to get what you're looking for back when you feed it the context. And again, I'm going to show you some examples of that. Some other people feel like if they use some of these tools, that there can be a loss of authenticity. And I think that's super fair. I was at a 60th birthday party a couple weekends ago, and a number of people got up to read a toast, to the birthday boy in this case. And everyone in the crowd is like, do you think he wrote that? Or do you think, ChatGPT wrote that? Right? There's all these questions about it. And then actually, one of those people that read a toast was my husband, and I had helped him write his toast. I did use ChatGPT, but I used it in the context of feeding it what my husband wanted to say about his friend and get some suggestions for ways to articulate that back. He used some of those suggestions, not all of them, but it really helped him actually, because he gets very nervous speaking in public. And it just helped him organize his thoughts so that when it came time to give the toast, he felt really, really confident, and he felt like he could articulate what he really wanted to say. So, I think it's perception around. You can use this as any other tool that you would use to help you write a toast, right? There's other tools you use to get ideas for toasts and things like that. I would say this isn't really that different. It totally depends what you feed it, what you get back. And it's not meant to be used totally literally all the time. Many times it's a great tool for getting a first draft of something. But totally understand, the concern around that. And so some people think that could be a weakness. And I think it is if it's not used properly, but used properly, I don't think it's a worry. So those are just some of the strengths and weaknesses I like to call out. I don't know if anyone thinks anything's missing from any of these lists that come to mind real quick, if you want to shout them out, or any questions about any of these. You guys good? Okay, so how do you deal with some of those weaknesses? Is a question. And you want to use these tools, being fully informed. And to me, the answer is that it's all about, it's a human in the loop situation, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with that term. If you haven't heard it, you're going to be hearing it a lot more as Gen AI takes off. But human in the loop is part of our AI literacy jargon here. It refers to this collaborative approach where the human is actively involved in the decision-making process alongside the AI system, right? And it really becomes clear that the best way to leverage these tools is to think of Gen AI really as a creative partner, like it's a muse, it's a co-collaborator, it's a co-designer. It helps kickstart your creativity in many cases. It's not meant to be a human substitute, but it does communicate in a human-like way. That's why it's just really kind of different. It's a different tool because it's so human-like the way you interact with it. But you have to realize it's not a human substitute. It's not perfect. It doesn't know the topic areas like the topic areas. You can't assume that it does. It only knows what you tell it, right? So you really have to think of having this kind of creative conversation with Gen AI. And I think that can really help just with that mindset, to get the most out of it and use it most effectively. So with that said, I did want to just share a couple things. I'm not going to go through all of these circles here, but I've used this quite frequently. Almost everything I do, I probably have used some aspect of generative AI these days. And it helps me get a lot more done. It helps me organize things, and it also helps me expand my creative thinking about certain topics. So, for example, a couple ways that I've used it at work. So I'm an insight professional. I work for an ingredient company in the food and beverage space, IFS. And I do a lot of work around food trends, around innovation in the food and beverage area. So recently, for example, I've used it for a project where I was trying to understand and compare and contrast food trends that really have stuck throughout the years and have been really big, huge food trends. So sriracha, many of you guys might be sriracha fans of the hot sauce that's kind of taken the world over, especially in the 2010s. And still to this day, salted caramel, for example, is a food trend that's kind of stood the test of time over the past about 15, 20 years. And a more recent flavor trend in the United States called Nashville Hot that's taken the US by storm. And now you see it everywhere. So, for example, I used generative AI to really dig and build research around some of these food trends and understanding more kind of the cultural factors that made these trends happen and then made them stick. And it was really a great way to augment some of the primary research that I had conducted. And it also helped me to build visuals and timelines and really kind of do some research that would have probably taken me a couple months to do. I was able to do it in a couple days. And that's really the power, I think, in the productivity. You can really just get so much done. We've also used it. I've used it for marketing positioning. So positioning capabilities in a competitive landscape, positioning technology capabilities, and also product portfolio. It's really helpful tool for competitive analysis. It's very helpful as a creative draft, first drafts of positioning statements, of different marketing content and collateral. that usually is built when you do a positioning activity. One of the things I'm most excited about as an insights professional is the fact that, typically on my team, we're responsible for generating consumer insights on different topic areas, different product categories. And, sometimes we generate a lot of insights. But the trick isn't about generating great insights. It's about using those insights for innovation and really being able to activate those insights. And the fact is, sometimes we have so many different insights that are important. It's almost hard for the human brain to tackle all those insights and know what to do with all those and utilize those. But generative AI is not a human brain, it's a machine, and it can hold on to and deal with a huge amount of insights that you can use it to help you activate those insights to create new product concepts. And I've done that across a variety of categories where I've used proprietary insights that maybe no one else had about maybe how consumers like protein bars or breakfast bars. I got some new insights, and we have incorporated into our process. Usually what we do is we'd sit with our cross-functional product development team, and we'd go through those insights, and we communicate those, and we try to bring those to life, and then we'll do some activities to activate those insights. And we still do that. But now what we've done is we've incorporated a round of generative AI insight activation into that process. And it's really worked well and has been pretty incredible. Sometimes we do it at the beginning, sometimes we do it in the middle, and sometimes we wait till the end to do that. So we're using a combination of ideation with kind of the traditional ideation sessions, and also using generative AI during those sessions. We've also used it recently to craft consumer personas, really helping to craft really nice, thorough personas that can be used also for innovation activities. Also used it to help create stimulus for creative sessions. So we just launched a whole new citrus innovation center in Florida, and the building is just gone up, and we wanted to do things like create names for the common collaboration spaces and the meeting rooms based on the way consumers perceive citrus. And so we were able to generate a whole lot of stimulus for that session, and also some creative names to get us kind of kicked off and started in that process. We can also use it as creative practitioners when we train. It is really helpful at designing training modules. So last summer, I used it to help me design a design thinking course. Greg was in there. I don't know if anyone else here was there. But it helped me to put together some training that I had done before, but I hadn't done it quite in the chunks of 2 hours over 4 days. Right. So I used it to help me make some training fit into a certain design and format for that training, and that saved me hours and hours and hours. Also, in my company, I'm building a career ladder for my team in consumer intelligence and sensory and consumer insights, and Gen AI has been really helpful for helping me develop my career ladder. When we think about the skills that are needed, the competencies that are needed, sometimes we have a library of competencies we can look at, and that can trigger ideas about what we should include in our career ladders and our career journeys. But sometimes we need a little bit of help understanding what some potential technical skills that we might want to include are. So I found it really helpful for that. Many of us have to develop objectives, work objectives, and development objectives. I've used it for that. just daily emails, travel itineraries, like I said, translations. I've used it for coding, survey coding, for example. And also I've used it quite a bit for my own passion projects, ideation and planning around some creative projects that I have for personal use. So that kind of gives you an idea, I hope, of the different ways you can really leverage Gen AI. Does anyone have any other sorts of ways they leverage Gen AI for creativity that they would want to share?
I've been using the Miro Assist. They have an AI tool in the board that can be kind of useful to use.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing happening, right? A lot of these tools that we're already using, like Miro, some of you might have access to different intelligence sources like Global Data or Mintel or Euromonitor, even within your own businesses. There are now, you've got kind of these general generative AI tools that are out there for use for everyone that are just kind of more general, like ChatGPT and Copilot. But now you've also got generative AI tools within some of the platforms that we're already using, like Miro. And they're specifically built for that application, right? And so you're going to see most of the time they're helping us do more productive searches within the platform itself. So that's great, or suggesting things we might do.
Yeah, I used it in a recent CPS session where the AI was almost like another member of the resource team, where I was doing data gathering around a question, ironically, about how to use AI in our organization. And before the session, I asked AI how AI could be used in their type of organization with the services they provide. But I let them do their own round of data gathering. And I said, okay, well, here's what AI said, and let them take a few minutes to read an output, which led to more data gathering. So that was helpful.
Yeah, I mean, using it like that is great because it's really using it as stimulus, right, for people to think even more where it will take them, adding, augmenting, whether it's their data gathering process or their ideation process. That's a great use as well. Anyone else?
It's a slightly off topic, but we're piloting the integration with Teams. So I would say
Oh,
when
yeah.
what you are going to love as a facilitator if you record a meeting is it is excellent at meeting notes and capturing, and you being able to go and ask that script questions about what people said and what people did. I mean, it is amazing. So that's a
Yeah,
nice kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I've been on a lot of meetings recently where someone had the tool where they could have the AI summarize the conversation, identify, the top 3 action items.
Mhm.
And these tools are going to just get more and more used, right, in all these applications. I'm part of a pilot for Microsoft 365 right now, and you can literally it opens within your email. And like, I was just at a baseball tournament with my son for 3 days out of the office, so I came back and asked the AI within my email to identify the most urgent emails in my inbox. It took a shot at that. I mean, it's everywhere, and some of these tools are a little bit of a learning curve, but once you learn how to use them, they can really help you, because there's so much information coming at us all the time. I think that is one of the ways it helps us, is just to organize and prioritize. But yeah, those are great examples.
And Mimi, with the email and also like the generative AI case study where you used it to activate insights or generate, how do you balance sort of that notion in terms of protecting proprietary data? Do you have a specific, is it just use chat? You have a specific IFF, AI, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so I'm using Copilot, and my company does not allow us to use ChatGPT because right now we don't at least have access to a protected version of ChatGPT, but we do have access to a protected version of Copilot Bing, which I can do a quick demo of. And so my company has organized us and has a very strict policy that we cannot use, anything that we're going to feed proprietary insights in or company information. We would have to use a Copilot versus any other tool. So I had done research, primary research, let's say on protein bars, and identified some kind of unique new moments where consumers were wishing they had a bar product and they didn't. And so those were my unique insights. So I would never go in ChatGPT and start typing in those insights and playing around with those, because that would, really put us in danger of having those out there. But in the version of Bing Copilot that we use, it's protected. And so what we provide to Copilot is not then made available outside of IFF. So that's where I did all the work, let's say for that example, the insight activation for the bar study.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So, it's all about the prompt. It kind of reminds me of what's the song? It's all about the bass, right? All about the bass. It's all about the prompt. And this I've realized is truly a skill. So generative AI really, the interface with it is basically what we call a prompt. That's what we're referring to as that interaction between the human and the large language model, the AI model. The AI model can provide, lots of different outputs based on how you phrase the prompt, right? How you phrase the question, how you phrase the information that you're feeding it. So prompts could be really simple, or they could be a little bit more complex. I do have now some experience, and I think there's a bit of a medium between simple and complex that seems to give you the best results. But the prompt, the whole idea behind the prompt is that, you're the human in the loop, right? It's your job to provide the AI model with sufficient information so it can produce the output that's most useful for you. So you're like, help the AI model help you. That's what you're doing with the prompt. And it's a little bit more to it than, just throwing out some phrase to generative AI. So my example that I was just talking about is that in my organization, we have a protected version of Copilot that we can use for work-related projects. So I can't show you anything on ChatGPT because I'm on my work computer right now. I will show you some things on Chat Bing, but that I think that's the case with a lot of people. So talking about Copilot, the specific tool, the Bing Chat Copilot, really what you need to know to start using it is, how you're really thinking about how to start a conversation. So when you go into Copilot, you're given these three options. You're presented with these choice of three different conversation styles. It says, do you want to have a creative conversation, a precise conversation, or a more balanced conversation? And of course, each of those are going to give you kind of a different outputs, right? Based on the mode that you choose. So that's one of the first things that you do. So I'll go through just a few steps, and then we'll go over to Bing, and I'll show it to you in context here. So what I've been discovering throughout my journey with generative AI is I just keep coming back to these three concepts for prompting. And again, it really is all about the prompt. So the first thing is that you need to act like you're having a conversation with a human, but know that it's not human, right? It's conversational. I know a lot of people start using it and they're just using it like a search. But it works better when you have a conversation with the tool. And that conversation, one of the first things you want to do, like you're having a conversation maybe with anyone you walk up to, is, there's a little bit of tone setting. There's a little bit of context setting. What do you want to have a conversation about? Where are you coming from? What's the current situation? I mean, you're really kind of doing a bit of a clarify step here with Copilot, with the tool, and you're providing it context. It can't read your mind. It seems like it could read your mind because it's so human-like and using natural language, but it can't. So you have to remember that you might need to tell it, a little bit about you before you really start digging into asking it your question. So I always talk about this idea of giving it context, is about being very kind of, going really wide with your context and then going really specific with your context. I'm sure that seems very familiar. We all know the dance there. Really giving it the big picture and then going in for some specific asks that you want to provide it. And then the other thing that's really important is to remember that this isn't, first of all, it's not a yes or no tool. It's a creative tool. It's a generative tool. It is a text tool. So, you're going to feed it text and it's going to give you text back. You can also feed it text and ask it to give you images back. You can do both of those things in Copilot. There's other tools out there that you can create video and other things, but Bing Copilot is text to text, text to image. And typically you're not going to get what you want in your first little interaction with the tool. It's an iterative conversation. You go back and forth. You tell it a little bit about what you're doing. It responds. You prompt it with a very specific question about that topic area you just kind of gave it the big picture of. It responds. You tell it if you like that response or if you don't like that response. You tell it what you want it to do next, and you go back and forth, and that's when it really starts working for you. So conversational, context, and iteration, I would say, are the three key things to remember. So I did create a bit of a tip sheet, and I'm happy to share a kind of generic version of this with you guys if it's helpful. But this is specific for Copilot, just because it's what I can show you on this computer today. But when you think about briefing Copilot, right, no matter how you're intending to use it, you always set your conversational style first, then you start wide. You don't even ask it anything usually. I don't even ask it anything when I first have an interaction with the tool. More often what I do is I give it some big statement about the context of the challenge that I'm working on. And even just from that, you'll be amazed what you get back. And then I go in and then I'm super specific, and then I say things like, okay, so for this chat, this is what I'd like you to give me. This is what I'd like you to do for me. Create a bullet point of this, summarize that, give me some ideas for this, right? It's really specific, but it's only after I've told it a little bit more about what I'm doing, what my challenge is, why I'm doing it, all that kind of fact finding that I'm feeding it. You always want to ask it open-ended questions. You're going to encourage some really good detailed responses by doing that. And there's a couple different approaches people take with the prompting. Sometimes when you ask it a very specific question, you might use an approach we call the persona approach, right? So the example I told you when I was doing the positioning work for my company, when I got to the question part of the prompt, I said, assume the role of a genius brand strategist and provide me with XYZ, what I was looking for. That's called the persona approach, right? You can ask it to assume the role, and that helps it to give you what you're looking for. It helps it to do that. And then once you start getting some responses back, you start refining and shaping the narrative to get you even closer to what you need. I might ask it for ideas, and then I might say, well, I really want, maybe I had some ideas about an exercise I was going to do in a training course. And I might say, well, I really want, these ideas to feel modern or feel cool. What are your thoughts on this? Make them more modern. It might give me ideas, and I'll say to it, oh, I really like those ideas. Can you give me more like that? Or I'll say, you know what? These ideas aren't helping me. Can you completely think about this in a different way and give me 10 additional ideas that are totally different than this? I mean, these are the types of things you're telling it. And when you tell it that, it responds. So that's just a little bit of an overview there. Specifically for Copilot, you just have to realize it's a little different than ChatGPT. For those of you that maybe have used ChatGPT, ChatGPT saves all your conversations. They're easy to go back to. Copilot does not. So it's a little bit clunky to save your conversations, which you want to do many times. So you just have to realize that that's a little bit of an extra step in Copilot. The other thing is that Copilot does, in fact, generate really nice images. If you would have asked me 6 months ago if Copilot was good at generating images, I would have said, no, it's really not. And I'm really bummed. But in the last few months, they've upgraded their AI engine. So they, in fact, use an AI engine, which is called DALL-E, which is the same one that ChatGPT uses. It's super powerful. And it's amazing right now what you can do with text to image inputs in Copilot. So don't be shy to use Copilot for images. I do find that when you're creating images, it helps to be on creative mode right from the get-go. You can also use generative AI to generate the prompts that will get you the best image. Sometimes if I'm not getting the image I want in Copilot, I'll say, okay, let's stop. Can you actually help me create a better prompt if this is what I'm looking for? Sometimes I ask it, to create its own prompt, and it does, right? Or sometimes, I might go into ChatGPT if I'm not sharing something proprietary or private and ask it to generate a prompt for Copilot in ChatGPT and then go back to Copilot. So, it's a creative process, you guys. It's super iterative. It's very much a creative process with the tool. Okay. So I had this thought that maybe we could do something live. Are we good on time, Russ? Let's see. Yeah.
We are.
Any questions before? I was thinking it'd be fun to do just a live demo here.
Live demo.
Okay, I think I have to stop sharing and then share again, right?
Mimi, I asked it, I asked, because of your email question, like, how you used it, you said you used it to kind of screen your emails.
Yes.
So I just asked Copilot how to make sure that if you're using generative AI to screen your emails, how do I get my email into you?
And what did it say?
And well, actually, I'd have to go back. What did it say? It said, some of the stuff was standard, like, of course, the idea around clear and relevant subject line, avoid unusual formatting, key information in the body, relevant keywords. So, nothing, I didn't ask it to be creative. I just asked it to just give me some hard ones. So,
yeah. And it can be helpful, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I work for a pretty large organization. Every year about this time, we have to create objectives for our work, what we're going to accomplish, how we're going to be measured in our performance. And we also have to create development objectives, how we would like to learn and grow in our current position, what our plan is for that. So can you guys all see that I'm on Copilot right now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so in Copilot, so this is the protected version that I'm on because my company has a protected version. So you can kind of see Mimi Sherlock up in the top right hand, and it says protected. If I scroll down a little bit, it's going to ask me, right, to choose a conversational style. So I'm gonna choose balanced for this question because let's say we all have this collective, we should have this collective development objective. I was thinking for all of us as creativity practitioners, that we should learn to leverage Gen AI, right? For our work, for what we do. So I'm going to start the conversation, and I'm going to start by saying I am an insights professional working in an ingredient company. All right, now I'm like typing weird because I'm doing it in front of you. Ingredient company in the food and beverage space. I lead a global team, and along with myself, I'm interested in learning how to leverage generative AI. So I think I'm just gonna, I'm gonna give it that context, right? So do you see what I'm doing? I'm just saying, hey, here's who I am. This is kind of my situation, big picture, right? And I'm going to let it respond to me. It'll probably say something really nice because it's a pretty nice conversation usually that you have with generative AI. So see how it's cranking some stuff out, right? It's cranking out some initial thoughts just based on me telling it what my situation is. You guys see this? Okay, so I asked it, or I didn't ask it anything. I just said, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And I'm interested in learning how to leverage Gen AI. I didn't ask it anything specific. I just told it that was kind of my overall goal here. And it says, oh, as an insights professional in the food and beverage industry, you're well positioned to explore the exciting world of generative AI. Let's delve into how this technology can impact your field. And it starts talking about using generative AI in the food industry for recipe creation, for content generation, for supply chain optimization, sustainability, personalized consumer experience. And then it talks about how you can use Microsoft Copilot, talks about market trends, talks about the future outlook about using generative AI in my industry, right? So kind of interesting. Some things I hadn't even thought about before. So right there, I'm kind of pumping with some thoughts and ideas. But now I'm gonna say I need to craft smart development objectives, and I'd like some ideas for some, let's say, smart, I'm making this up as I go, smart objectives for myself to leverage generative AI, and also for a way to leverage it with my team. Please provide some ideas for smart objectives. You guys still with me? Okay, now it starts telling me about smart objectives. What are smart objectives? So this is good. I know it's understanding what I'm looking for. Smart objectives are specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound. Now it's saying, it's giving me ideas for each one of these. So for myself, it's suggesting that maybe one objective could be that I develop proficiency in using generative AI tools. And that maybe the objective would be something like learn to use at least 2 generative AI platforms, successfully complete a small project using generative AI within the next 3 months, allocate time each week for learning, enhance your skills to contribute effectively at your team's AI, to your team's AI initiatives, and achieve this by the end of the quarter. The next one is applying generative AI to optimize ingredient formulations. Right, it's giving me all these ideas here. So one of the objectives was to learn how to use at least 2 generative AI platforms, right? So then I might say, can you suggest some learning modules that I might tap into to learn to leverage generative AI specifically for insight generation. I'm going to say consumer insight. And it's probably going to say, sure, I could do that. Certainly, it says. Here are some learning resources and modules to help you leverage Gen AI for consumer. And it goes through and it starts giving me very specific resources. And then with Copilot, it always also provides additional links that you can look up and learning for where it came from. So is that helpful just to kind of, especially for people maybe who haven't done any of this at all, to just kind of see what that interaction is like? I can't see you, so if you're nodding your head, I can't see. Russ, you'll have to tell me.
Let's say I'm looking
sure.
at Dan.
What is it?
The group. So yes, helpful, especially for those that may not be that familiar with it.
Okay.
Very helpful.
Okay.
Thumbs up. You're getting a bunch of stuff in the chat.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. So maybe I want to ask, I want to move on. I want to use it for something different. So this time I'm going to start a new conversation, but this time I want to have a more creative conversation. So I'm going to choose more creative mode. And I'm going to say that I am working in the ingredient business, in the food and beverage space. And I want to pitch some new, let's say some new beverage concepts to my customers who are, and I'm making this up, I'm not doing this, by the way, I'm just making up this scenario, who are competing with Starbucks. So again, just giving it context. Here's who I am. This is kind of where I'm at. This is my kind of overall goal here. And so it's going to give me some feedback. And here it's already giving me ideas. It's decided to give me some ideas, some sustainability driven brews, some health conscious selections. And this is good because, you know, this is my area. I know that this is pretty on trend here. These aren't crazy ideas. These make a lot of sense. I'm feeling, you know, good about the conversation. So part of this kind of initial context interaction is also kind of testing out, you know, do I think it's doing, you know, what I need it to do. So now I'm going to get a little bit more specific because I'm going to say I have a new beverage concept that is a half and half mix of tea and coffee. It is flavored with lavender And I am looking for you to bring this concept to life and create some images that convey the taste experience of this concept. Please create an image of this beverage and emphasize the lavender flavor. Now, sometimes this takes just a little bit longer. And also sometimes it will say to you, sorry, can't do it. So right now it's saying, okay, I'll try to create that. See how it's just very conversational. It talks to you like a person. It's creating the image. Your image is generating. Let's see what it does. We'll all find out together. Oh, what do you think, guys? Half tea, half coffee with lavender. Did a pretty good job, no? Don't you think? These are nice images. And so now I might, you can click on these and you can kind of take a closer look at these. You can maybe decide which one you like best. You can do all those things. Oops, I need to move this thing out of the way. So, I like those images. I think those are pretty cool. I feel like maybe it's like maybe it's too much, the lavender. So I'll say, I'm going to use positive prompting. I'm going to say, I love these. Can you recreate some images that put a little less emphasis on the lavender, let's just say on the lavender. Let's see what it does. Right, so now you can start tweaking and guiding and again, kind of telling it what's working, what's not working. It'll try to create some things. Right, it's just, you can go on and on. Have you guys been using generative AI for image creation at all? Anyone?
Judy has.
With poor luck, though, usually not this successful. I have a question. Why tell it you love these images? Is there,
Yeah.
does it help?
Does it get
Yes.
mad?
So it doesn't get mad.
It gets offended.
Well, there is something called positive prompting I've been reading about. And basically, anytime you're giving it feedback, if you like something, if you don't, I mean, it also gives you the chance to give it a thumbs up. You're training it. It's part of its training. And so I am training it by saying, hey, I love these. Yeah, these work. These are great. Now I want you to slightly modify it. I don't know if it really did here as much as I would have hoped. But it knows that I didn't want something completely different when I asked for new images. So it's part of the training. And I swear to God, you guys, I find that when I put thank yous and pleases, I just have a lot of luck with stuff. I don't know if that's just me, if it just is what I'm imagining, but I have read that positive prompting is a good approach. So I use it and
Must
it
be
works.
programmed by millennials.
But you can also say, I don't like these. I don't like these at all. Could you please do something totally different? And it will say, oh, too bad. Sure, I'll try this again. So it's not about always being positive. You don't want to be positive if it's not giving you what it wants. It's just, if it is, let it know. If it's not, let it know. And I don't know, when I use please and thank yous, it seems to, I have a lot of luck. I've been having a lot of luck with with using it. I might do a totally different pivot here, and I might say, now I'd like you to think about using this, I would say, flavor concept in a new cereal product. Can you, how about this? Can you please create an image for a new cereal with the flavor of coffee, tea, and lavender? Please create a cereal box on a counter next to a pitcher of milk. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But know that it's going to try to do what you ask it to do. Okay, I'll try to create that. Let's see what it does. This should be interesting. Okay, so do you see how you know, sometimes it creates some crazy words quite often, but I think the cereal box is actually kind of interesting. And again, you can now tweak this and you can ask it to modify or change it, but pretty much did what I said, right? Put the milk right there, put it on the counter, created this new cereal box. I like these. Now I'd like you to provide me with some ideas for a product name. Let's say for product names, for product. Let's see if it'll give us some names. Certainly, here's some creative product names for your cereal that blends the flavors of coffee, tea, and lavender. Morning Brew, Cafe Infusion Crisp, Floral Essence O's, Brew Blossom Clusters, Lavender Latte Grains, Herbal Harmony Ring, I can't even say it, Morning Brew Aroma Crisp. That's great. So again, that's kind of the idea, just playing there. But that's the process, and that's just kind of some basics, maybe hopefully some helpful examples about how to interact with Gen AI. So what I really think is the only way to learn this is to experiment. And think about what you might use it for. It could be anything. I had to go to a week-long baseball tournament in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina all week. I've been there before. The food is like, McDonald's, Wendy's, whatever, right along that strip. I thought, I wonder, there's got to be somewhere that has like healthy, good food. And so I went to ChatGPT and I said, I'm going to be down there these days. This is where I'm staying. Could you give me, 3 restaurants where I would find, this kind of food? And lo and behold, it did. A couple of them checked out, one didn't, but I tried. Right? Or I was audited by my company the other day because 6 months ago, I finally officially took the Lego Serious Play certification. And of course, I had that cost on my expense report. And 6 months later, I get this email saying, you have been audited. Like, what is this that you spent, this money for? Please respond to justify, explain yourself, basically. And of course, I was like, You know, that's kind of an unnerving email to get. And I thought, oh my gosh, and I used Copilot to say, could you help me write a justification email because I just got audited, and I basically told it the story. And then I said, you know, Lego Serious Play, here's, you know, the reason I decided to take the training is because I want to train others. And I gave it my whole story. And then it was like, certainly it gave me back the best email. It was a little long. So I did one more round and I said, could you shorten this to about half the length? It did. And I used that one email pretty much word for word, almost the second version. And I don't know, I haven't heard from the audit department since. So
All right. So here's my build on that is that future boss and employee assessments are going to be conducted completely through AI, with the boss talking AI and the employee talking AI, and say, no, what I really meant to say was, tell them what I meant to say, AI. Wouldn't that be
right.
great?
Well, they have, there's some interesting, you know, case studies out there where people are being interviewed and they're, you know, they're consulting ChatGPT over here on the side to answer the questions. So it's happening. It's all happening. Anyway, I know we're you know, about 13 minutes left or so. So maybe it's a good time to just talk a little bit if people have questions. I don't know if other people have anything to share. I hope this was helpful. I just kind of pulled some things I've already been doing. I really didn't make up anything I haven't been doing. I just didn't have time to do that, but I wanted to share with you some things. I really think, you guys, this is so important for us as creative practitioners. There's so many ways to leverage this. We don't be afraid of it. You know, there are issues. It's not perfect. But we are the human in the loop and we can navigate it. And one thing it brings to mind is that it actually means that if you have domain expertise in some area, that is more important than ever here. Because as an expert in a certain domain, you know, you're going to be so good at feeding and being iterative in this conversation with Gen AI. And that's really what's going to help you be successful, because, you know, anyone can generically say, hey, give me some new beverage ideas for pitching to coffee houses that might, you know, compete with Starbucks. Everyone can get ideas. But, you know, you have your own insight, you have your own domain expertise. And when you start being able to use that and combine that with the power of Gen AI, I really think that's just, that's where it's at. And that's so far where I've found a lot of success. So that's my go Gen AI, guys. Creative practitioner.
Go Gen AI. Anyone have any burning questions? We got a few minutes. If so, take yourself off mute.
Well, one question I did put in the chat was, have you in CPS style tried to position AI to come up with wild and unusual ideas?
Yes.
And what have you done to get it to that level? How did you prep it and prompt it?
I mean, basically, I always use that same approach of the context and then whittling down to specific questions. So I usually kind of do a straightforward ask, right? And then I start prompting with creative prompts. I say, okay, I want some ideas that are, you know, that are come from outer space. Give me 10 ideas that come from outer space. I mean, you know, you can use the same tricks, or, you know, okay, pretend like you're Dr. Seuss. What ideas would you give me, right? The same stuff we do, you're just asking it to do, and it does it. And it's just insane what it comes, what it does. And then create images. I'm going to show you just real quick some images I've created actually for clients, just a quick little snapshot. Because the image creation, you know, we all know how valuable images are to bring ideas to life and help. Can you see those?
Oh, we just lost it.
Oh, where'd they go? Oh, here.
There.
So, I work for a lot of beverage companies, but these are just examples of ideas that were not used for my customer, but that I just generated. These were kind of some throwaway ideas, but the imagery can be really provocative and really capture the essence, in this case, of some trend intelligence that I was feeding. It's pretty good. And you can create branded images that, like, I went to these customers and I got so many comments on how great my photography was with my food photography. I'm like, well, not food photography. And I'm always super transparent when I use images like this. I have a footnote that says co-created with generative AI, just because I think, why not be as transparent as possible? No one's forcing me to do that. It's not a policy yet, but I think it's a good idea, especially if you're going to use someone else's logo, of course. But that's what I do. So did play around with the images.
Great.
Super fun.
Doug has a question.
Thanks, Russ. Hey, Mimi, this is great. Thank you for your time. Quick question about the gibberish text. I've generated a number of images and I get gibberish text too. How any tips to overcome that?
Yes, I have been dealing with that quite a bit. I keep saying, please remove the text from this image if you can. I would like an image that doesn't have this blah, blah, blah on it. And I write it. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. I just did something where the image was so great, but it had this weird text on it.
Right.
So, I just downloaded the image and then I edited it myself, right? So then you can always do that. You can always do that. That's the great thing. You just download these and they're JPEGs, right? So then you put them in your own image editing software. But sometimes it takes a few tries. Like I will literally give it the refinement, ask, and then maybe it won't do it. And I'll say, could you please try again? You weren't able to do what I asked. And it will come back and it will literally say, I'm sorry, I'll try again. And then it'll do it again. And then it didn't do it again. So I'll say, still not what I wanted. Please try again. And sometimes after, like if you're patient, after 4 or 5 times of asking it, and giving it that feedback that it's not doing what you're asking, I think it needs to learn. Remember, it needs to learn. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Sometimes you can get there. And then, if you're out of time, sometimes I'll just take the closest thing and I'll just then put it in my image software and correct it. Or, I'm not even very good at that. So I'll just put little squares on top of things. I mean, I was at a major customer. I did some very low skill editing of some images. But the images were still so good that the customer was like, wow, these really capture the essence of these trends. Like, how did you do that? I was like, oh, it's Gen AI.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
So I'm running late. I want to give you those handouts, but I don't have them right now to put in the chat. So Russ, can I send them to you and then maybe you could send them out to everyone?
That will be perfect because we'll do a.
We won too many baseball games. I was at the tournament way longer than I thought.
We will send out the recording and some tip sheets early next week.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mimi. Thank you,
Okay,
Russ.
great to see you guys.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mimi.
Mimi.
That was so
much
great.
for sharing
Such
your
a pleasure.
expertise.
Thanks for inviting
Fantastic.
me.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you. This was
Okay,
great.
bye.
Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.